We're live.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back again to the Dream Unfinished YouTube show. My name is Sarah Overton. I'm the production manager for the Dream Unfinished. And today and always is our wonderful new co-host, Damian Norfleet.
Hello,
So
hello,
excited.
hello
Oh my,
from Minneapolis.
one.
Minneapolis and all of its various challenges that had nothing to do with the trial. I had a day. I had a day getting this set up today. Look at that. Look at that. You know, Sarah, I have a question for you. Do you know of a group called, I can't remember the name of the group, but you know the song from the 80s that harkens to your name over and over in the chorus?
Sarah
Have you ever
Smile?
heard a song that goes, Sarah, Sarah, the storm is brewing in your eyes? You've ever heard that song before?
You know what? No, I don't know that I have actually. I've only got
Homework. That's my homework from me to you. But so good to see you.
It's good to see you too.
How are you doing? How was your week? How was everything?
My week was pretty good. I think I was feeling a little anxious, a little on edge this week, and finding a little moment of relief.
Yeah.
Just doing a lot of thinking about a few things. But I'm really more interested in your week. I'm in Brooklyn, and you're in Minneapolis. How have things been for you this week?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so like the week save yesterday
Mm-hmm.
has been complicated. It's complicated, right? All eyes are on Minneapolis. Everyone who lives in Minneapolis, all eyes are on ourselves. It is even without direct mentioning of the goings on, it's just awkward.
Mm-hmm.
It's just awkward. It's awkward to walk past people in the hallway. It's awkward to just kind of exist, like just doing normal things, like standing in a queue. It's awkward because there's so much to say and not say, and everyone's nervous to say incorrect things, and the anxiety of what's going to happen if this happens, and what's going to happen if this happens. I mean, it was all of that. It's all of that. But then yesterday happened, and I have to fully admit to everyone, I fully committed myself to a day of joy yesterday. I was like, no matter what else is going on, I'm going to be happy in this moment for at least the next couple of hours. I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to celebrate and sit in this moment just for a little while, just for a little while. But yeah, it's complicated. It's the energy is it's palpable, like it's crazy. Like you can literally I can open my balcony and just hear it because I live in downtown.
Mm-hmm.
um yeah, it's odd. It's different than when I was in Hong Kong during those police protests. It's different than that, and it's different than the feeling in New York when we had our demonstrations. It's a different kind of a feeling because it's a different. I dare say it's a different group of people.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's similarities between like New York and London
Right.
and Hong Kong. And then it's just a little different being in the Midwest during a time like this, especially when it's such a focal point.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? Yesterday happened,
Yeah.
and I am allowing myself to be happy for a little while. Just a little while. Just
What
a
a
little
beautiful
while.
thing. No harm in that, I'd say.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful thing for America. I hope everyone in America should be owning this moment. This is an American victory. We're doing something we've been saying we've been doing for hundreds of years, right? It's just yesterday we saw the system work the way we've been told it's supposed to work. We
Mhm.
actually just got to see it work for once, and we celebrated, and we should. But
Right. Yeah.
yeah, so I'm gonna sit in that happiness. I know there's lots of other things going on and plenty of reasons to feel other kinds of feelings. I'll get to those tomorrow. But today I am I feel good. I feel good. And oh man, it's kind of surreal. I still can't believe it happened. I'm not gonna lie. This may be negative, but I was in the camp of
I know.
we'll see. We'll see. We've always had evidence. We've always had video footage. We've always had all of these things. There, very little was different about this one, I think.
I,
In a grand scheme, the very little was different than the other cases. So I don't know. I'm pleasantly surprised. Heavy on the pleasant.
Very much so. Very much so. I was really ready to be disappointed this week, too, in a lot
Yeah.
of ways, and I think it's
Yeah.
it's hard to have all of that preparation and anticipation kind of bottled up inside of you. And
Yeah.
for this episode, I think that we're thinking about just sort of call and response. And you had just brought up this beautiful idea of that's what it feels like. It's you have the waiting and the anticipation, and then what's the
Yeah.
response to that? And I think that we were both in talking about how we discuss this, how we have this discussion this week. What is the musical call and the musical response? What is our musical call and response to this
Yeah.
moment? Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, and really for me, the first musical piece that I thought of was Coleridge Taylor Perkinson's Black Folk Song Suite for solo cello, The Lamentations. And it's just this really, really beautiful set of four separate movements of
Mhm.
just music for solo cello. And I think so often the cello is used as this instrument of lamentation. It's this instrument of personal struggle because the range is so large. You have the really, really low depths, and then you have these crazy highs. It's the instrument that people say is closest to the human voice. And so it's this big expression of self put into.
Now, what is the lowest note on a cello? It's a C, right?
Yep,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
Well, if we're getting really technical, which I think
Oh,
we should, for our non-musician friends out there, you can tune the cello down to be even lower. I think the lowest that I've really heard it is an A.
oh
Very,
wow.
very low A, yeah. So that's called
I did not know that.
scordatura. Yeah, when you tune it down. So that
What's
can
that called
happen.
again?
Scordatura.
Scordatura.
Yeah, when you tune the cello down. So Bach
Hmm.
does it, and I know a ton of other composers do it. But
Interesting.
this Coleridge Taylor Perkinson piece, he was a composer back, I think he passed pretty recently in 2004.
Oh.
When we think of our classical composers, and he was a Black composer who worked with Marvin Gaye. He worked with Max Roach. He was Max Roach's pianist for a while.
I
And
love Max Roach.
right,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So he's got this really wonderful breadth of classical music and jazz music, and then Black folk song suites that are kind of instilled in him from his mother, who was an organist slash pianist also. She named
Mm,
him after Samuel Coleridge Taylor. So there's just this wonderful mix of music history all combined in a person. And he
nice.
really put it together in this Black folk song suite, this Lamentations. So I bring this up because the fourth movement is called Perpetual Motion. And that's what I was feeling this week. It
Mm,
starts with this undercurrent, this really strong undercurrent of
mhm.
just this one repetitive note throughout the entire piece that he keeps coming back to. And there's little bursts of hope and joy and sadness and anger, but there's still this undercurrent that you have to come back to. You have to keep going, keep going.
Mm.
It's a really, really wonderful piece of music.
That sounds interesting. I have to say, when I read that that may be your selection this week, I purposely did not listen to the whole thing this time. I wanted to take this journey with our viewers. I really did, because that's part of the beauty about doing this with you. You're going to introduce me to so much literature and rap that like I'm not familiar with. For example, I didn't know you could tune a cello down as far as a minor third. I mean, who knew that? This week I chose a piece um, by a composer who I literally love, um, Miss Courtney Bryan. She is, in addition to just being a brilliant talent. I mean, I literally think she's brilliant. Um, I just, but in addition to being a brilliant talent, she's such a beautiful person. She is such a beautiful person inside and out. I had the, gosh, honor is the most appropriate word I can think of. I had the honor of working with her just a few months ago, and just sharing time and the process with her was literally a life-changing, and I dare say career-changing experience. But I'm not going to turn to the piece that we did together for this. I'm actually turning to another one of her pieces. She wrote a piece called Sanctum for orchestra and recorded voice. I believe it was first commissioned and premiered back in 2015. For what for the American Composers Orchestra. I think they premiered it in Lincoln Center. It's just this wonderful piece that encapsulates everything I have been encouraging my friends and family to focus on during these times. And by these times, I mean these times of protest, these times of pandemic, these times of just these troubling times. I'm gonna get into like more detail about the piece after we get a look at your selection. I'm very excited about hearing about this, but Courtney Bryan is a brilliant, brilliant composer and a brilliant pianist and just a brilliant thinker. And it comes through in all of her music. Like it just comes through so clearly. It's such a talent to be able to do that. But I'll get back to gushing more about her in this piece a little later in the segment because I'm already giddy. I'm already giddy.
I'm giddy for it. I feel like I listened to a little snippet of it and I purposely didn't listen to it all the way through because I wanted to do the same thing.
Right, you want to take this journey, right? Yeah.
Do this. So let's let everyone, you included, discover a little bit of this Coleridge Taylor Perkinson piece. And here we're going to be joined by Karrie Joyner. And if you don't know Karrie Joyner, he is, I mean, an absolutely wonderful talent, wonderful cellist. So this is him performing this Perpetual Motion, the movement I'm thinking of for WQXR. Damien, I just want to make sure. Can you hear that?
No, I can't really hear it yet. It looks like it's muted on your screen. The mute button's lit up. But I will say, while you're queuing that up, you know the other thing about the cello that almost makes me angry?
Oh.
It looks as pretty as it sounds. That is a pretty looking instrument, you know? It's just gorgeous.
Yeah, I mean, it was really one of my first selections as a musical instrument. I think for that reason. So Karrie Joyner is going to play Coleridge Taylor Perkinson's Perpetual Motion.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, yeah. Oh, all right. I'm going to stop that one there. I know you're holding your breath.
I think I held my breath the entire time.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's so amazing.
I love this piece of music. This is something that I'm working on right now, and it is like that for 4 pages.
Whoa, hold on. You said you're working on that piece right now?
Yes.
So how long do you think it's going to be before you're ready to show me this piece? Because I need to hear all of it.
Give me 5 years, you know. I think I'll get there. I think if you give me 5 good years, I got it.
Okay. 5 good.
practice every day for 5 years.
Oh my goodness.
Well,
It sounds amazing.
it is. It really is. And you know what I love about it is that you as the performer are physically exhausted. You are just wiped
Oh,
by the end of it. You really have to preserve everything that you have to do this. And
yeah.
that's what resonated so deeply with me this week is like you are physically or emotionally exhausted and it's
Mm,
kind of perpetual motion that you just have to keep going anyway.
yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah,
have a few questions.
sure.
Not being a cellist, but being a huge fan thereof. Now, when you play two strings at once,
Mhm.
what do you call that?
Double stops.
Double stops.
Mhm.
Is it possible to do a triple stop?
It is possible to do a triple stop. Yeah, very much so. You have to get really, really loud. It's I think impossible to do a quiet triple stop. Um,
Oh,
so
interesting.
if you're pressing the bow down on all three strings at once, or if you're pressing the bow down trying to get to all three strings at once, that's innately going to make a really loud sound.
Wow, that's interesting. So is that considered a double stops and triple stops? Is that considered like an advanced technique on cello?
I think, honestly, I think I learned how to do double stops within my first year of playing cello. I think that's,
Oh, wow.
yeah.
Because I'm not gonna lie, as a layman, it just seems like the most. I mean, he seemed like he did that the entire piece, and
Hmm.
it just seems like very difficult. It seemed
Yeah.
like it's really impressive. Not to mention the fact that like somehow he did that, but the whole piece still just worked as a beautiful piece. Like I never heard technique or anything. It just sounded like. I mean, it's a talent is an amazing thing. That man is very very talented. And after you played that clip, I realized I've seen him play before.
Oh, really? Where about?
Yeah, I saw him in a very similar means. Actually, I saw him on a streamed performance. He was performing on a piece that was commissioned. I believe Taishan Sori
Hmm.
wrote a piece for Philadelphia Opera that was commissioned for them, but he was the cellist in it.
Wow.
I recognized his playing. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, an excellent player. I think, studied at Juilliard. I think won Juilliard's concerto competition when he was
Oh,
studying there. I mean, so just
that's
absolutely
dope.
top. Yeah. Really, really top stuff.
Well, we need to make sure we have his website information up in on the little thing because I want to look him up myself. Like that's
Absolutely.
if he can play stuff like that, I want to hear more of him play. I also want to hear the update in 5 years when you are ready with this concerto. What's your favorite part about that concerto as a cellist? I'm curious.
Oh, I think it's the marriage of the emotion and the technique, like you were saying. It's all of these double stops that convey just sort of either this hope or this anger or the need to just kind of go forward. And then you have these really rapid string crossings. So you heard that ba 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 that was going all throughout the piece. That's just crossing from one string back and forth.
Did we hear the what?
The the ba 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 ba
Oh,
ba.
okay, okay, yes, yeah, I did hear that. I heard
It's
that.
a technical term. That kind of goes all throughout the piece. These really, really wonderful 16th notes, and so you're rapidly moving your wrist back and forth to try and get this really smooth stream of consciousness, either with yourself or with the instrument, and it's a wonderful piece of music. It's a wonderful marriage, I think, of emotion
No,
and technique, and that really comes from Clarence Taylor Perkinson's knowledge of jazz music, and how jazz is so emotive, and classical music as well. He's just a wonderful composer.
that's dope. You said something, and I'm curious now. You said that the piece for you really captures this perpetual motion and the need to go forward. Is that kind of where you find yourself in this current moment? Is that kind of where you're defaulting to, like as a person? Like, how are you dealing with this? Are you kind of trying to press forward, or how are you coping?
Yeah, I think it is a really difficult moment, for self-preservation. So
Mm,
I'm trying to manage the self-preservation, knowing that I have things to do, that just require me to keep pushing forward and keep pushing through. But there's always this undercurrent of, feeling so connected to the things that
yeah,
are happening, feeling so connected to the things that are happening.
yeah. This is funny because I could hear that kind of urgency in that piece, and it is a very different kind of energy. Remember, we were talking earlier, I guess a few days ago, about this moment and what was kind of needed. And I kind of alluded to this kind of like sword and shield
Mhm.
symbolism, I guess. And I guess I'm still there. I'm still there these days
Mhm.
because there's so much need for our voice. You know, there's so much need for us to keep this momentum going forward in order for this kind of change that is necessary to happen, right? We
Right.
need the protesters, we need the marchers, we need music like that piece that kind of energizes and acts as a catalyst in some ways, right? And then there's the other part of a battle, right? Like if you're going into a battle and you're going to be prepared, whether you're like a knight
Mhm.
or or just a soldier or a teacher, sometimes going into grade school, like you just kind of have to have some way. Also, it can't just be a sword. You also have to have a shield, right? If you're going to succeed in battle. Um, and I think we have a lot of swords. I think at the moment we've been the culture, our people, the movement has been blessed with lots of great speakers and organizers and people that are marching and doing all these things, and we need that. I think the other aspect of this movement, for me, that's been really important. It's on that idea of self-preservation, but it's the
Mhm.
we have to rest.
Mm.
If we don't rest, we can't do. We
Right.
have to rest. We have to protect our emotions. We have to all these things because it's physically taxing, right? To be stressed, stress is physically taxing on your body. It's tied to so many other kinds of things. And I think for me, what I've been really focusing on, and maybe too much, I'm not sure. Sometimes I think maybe too much, but I've really found myself pulling back and like really putting up protection as a means of preserving myself. I've really like receded like back within like my close circle of friends and family, and I've just kind of the filter is strong. I don't answer the phone for everything anymore. I've been screening calls. I've been turning off the news after a certain amount of time. I've been making sure that like for a certain amount of time a day I do something that is pleasant and stress free just to maintain, you know what I mean? Because we wake up and there's something I don't always think other communities don't understand about this particular moment is it's not just whether or not one police officer is going to be found guilty or innocent for killing one black person. The other thing that's on trial, and this is what me and my friends have been talking about, right? The other thing that's on trial is we're actually talking about the value of a black life. Like we're literally sitting here deciding in what situation is it okay to kill a black person. Like that's what the whole trial is. That's what we're sitting here talking about. People are sitting here fighting for scenarios where they're trying to rationalize killing a black person. If this happens and this happens, well, then it's okay. Like that's the discussion. And that's an exhausting discussion when you're the subject of that.
Yeah.
Right. And
Absolutely.
so in this world of swords, I've really been turning my focus to some shields. And that's what took me to Courtney's piece, to be honest,
Mhm.
because this is what I think is necessary. Obviously, action is necessary. But in addition to that action, we need to listen. This is a moment where listening to our elders, listening to, unfortunately, this is not our first time doing this, right? This is not the first time we've had to worry about a case between a police officer killing a black person and what's going to happen and people marching in outrage. This has been going on since like 1865. I mean,
Mhm.
so unfortunately, we've got plenty of elders to lean on for experience and just how to get through and how to cope, right? So listening is such a big part. But then it's also as passionate as we feel about these things and as much as we want to go out. I mean, again, I'm in Minneapolis. It's a very strong urge to go in them streets,
Mhm.
right? But there's a reality. There's also a pandemic going on,
Absolutely.
so we can't just run out there and act like we're not in the middle of a pandemic. So there's these other things you have to do. And so we have to listen and we have to meditate and we have to just find our safe space. And that to me is what happens in Sanctum.
Mm.
Sanctum itself, um, I believe we're going to show the clip of
Yes.
the Oberlin performance,
Mhm.
and when you and the viewers get a chance, I encourage them all to actually watch the entire thing because Courtney describes and discusses the piece in her own words to get some actual, authentic background about what led to the piece. But the thing for me that brought me to the piece, in addition to the music just sounding brilliant, it's just absolutely brilliant, is that it provides all the things that I think are necessary for self-preservation in this time. It provides the things that I'm calling the shield, you know. She literally incorporates, in addition to this beautiful orchestral music, she incorporates like sermons. Like she literally includes the voice of our elders and wisdom into the piece. And like, but then it's also this like, she also includes literal footage of people being out and like voicing their emotions. Because the other part that's really necessary is community, right? We need rest,
Mm.
we need to listen, and we need to reinforce our sense of community. That's how we're going to make it through this. That's how we've made it through the last 200 years. And that's what's important. So I just really hope that everyone really does. And this is not a time for passive peace, passive happiness. That doesn't exist in times like this. This isn't a, you have to aggressively be happy right
Mhm.
now. You have to make an effort. So just really surround yourself with community and wisdom of people who are more mature than you, and listening and just making sure you keep your space safe. And that's what to me this piece is about, or at least that's what at least it brought to me.
Right.
Um, yeah, I think it's just so important. And I just want to say a few other words about Courtney, because
Sure.
Courtney did something, and this is kind of a personal story, but I think it ties into our talking of self-preservation. So what brought Courtney and I together was a project that we worked on together at the end of 2020 when everything was shut down and we were
Mhm.
all stuck at home. And then she brought this opportunity to me to do a piece where it was a collaborative piece. So we're working together, but remotely. So I did everything for, my part from my Harlem house in a recording studio in Harlem. And she did everything she was going to do in New Orleans in a recording studio down there and in her space. And we were so far apart physically,
Mhm.
but like for moments every week, we were sharing the same space, sharing ideas, sharing impressions, sharing art, and all these kinds of things. And it just really made me aware of the need for that sort of thing. And that's what really led to me understanding how to really take care of yourself during these times. Yes, we have to make sure our voices are heard, but it is so important to make sure we make bigger efforts to secure our community. Pick up the phone and call those people you haven't spoken to in years and things like that. And I think all that is evident in her piece.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know if we're ready to listen to it yet, but I kind of am. Can
Yeah,
we jump to
absolutely.
that? Because I just really want people to get a dose of this ball that she creates. This in one fell swoop. It's community. It's a safe space. It's wisdom, all in one. It's amazing what she does here.
I'm gonna have to stop it there, Damien.
That is fine. We can stop it there. I encourage, listen, y'all, when y'all have an extra 20 minutes in your lives, go ahead and bless yourself with that full recording because you are not even ready for what's about to happen. It's about to do some things. It's such a powerful piece, Sarah. I'm just, it's one of those pieces that the first time I heard it, I literally was just like,
Hmm.
what just happened? I didn't realize I needed that so much. And I listened to it again.
It,
That's what
I,
happened.
I'll admit the first time that I listened to this, I feel as though I'm in a much different frame of mind today than I was listening to
Interesting.
it last week. And I mean,
Right.
impact is just so different. And it's kind of a combination of what you said. This piece feels like a reminder that every moment we are preparing to be someone's elders in the later years, and this is such a good space. You create such a wonderful space between all of these instruments to kind of take rest and prepare and really think through and have this calm. I mean, wow, just wonderful. Thank
I, I I love how you said that because I didn't even that's not something I even thought about. Like we are preparing ourselves to become elders.
you.
That's a
Absolutely.
responsibility we should all take very seriously.
Mhm.
Sarah,
Absolutely.
that wisdom from Sarah. Come on with some wisdom. But the piece is gorgeous, and Courtney is just she just has this ability. I mean, there are lots of really great composers, right? There are lots of really, really great composers, and they all have their individual blessings and skills or superpowers. She has this ability to just connect on an emotional level that is I think it's preternatural. Like it's amazing. It's an amazing talent. And how long did it take you to get there? Not very.
Not long
And
at all.
yeah, she does it. She does it. You know what? So this reminds me of the other thing we were talking about. The
Mhm.
fact so the music actually has this like kind of psychosomatic
Mm.
and playing out somatic effect on us. Yeah, it's something I remember hearing about when I was in school. There was like a weird push that I could notice that everyone was really starting to talk about, like music in regards to medicine and
Mm.
like therapy and music therapy and stuff. And it was like really popular. Everyone was reading about it, and some people were starting to develop majors and stuff.
Mhm.
And that kind of ties into what we were just talking about with these two pieces. Like both of these pieces have had like a physical reaction to us as artists, but isn't there like actual like medical
Absolutely.
research that like validates this kind of connection?
Absolutely. And I think, we've known that music has such a physical effect. It can recharge and charge people to go and do. It can be rest. We've seen music used in protests, since the dawn of time, really,
Yeah.
to charge people to go out and do things. And more recently, in terms of civil rights movements, Fannie Lou Hamer using music, uh,
Mm.
Harriet Tubman, Billie Holiday, Strange Fruit as kind of like an art sort of protest music as well. There's a lot of that. And what we've seen, I think what you're talking a little bit more about is the field of music therapy, which really started, I think the first certifications in music therapy were in the 80s. But
Oh, it's that new.
it's very recent, very, very, only about
Oh.
50 years old. But it's being so new, it's evolved into so many different sections. You have music therapy in military populations, music therapy for Alzheimer's disease, music therapy in medicine, music therapy in response to crisis and trauma. I mean, just all of these things for any sort of social problem or issue that you feel that can be solved through therapy, there's also music therapy for it.
No, you know what? So I've heard that before.
Hmm.
So because I'm me, I was like, let me look this up
Right.
because let me see. And I did a little digging. It didn't take very long. I landed on an article printed on like Harvard Health Publishing, which I
Okay.
believe is just kind of like the website or electronic journal version of the Harvard Medical School's journal. And maybe like 10 years ago, they released a study that was like actually showing like, case studies, like tens and tens and tens of patients. They conducted these studies and they actually found like, I think there was a study of 80 people. They used a study case group of 80 people and they showed that like music had an actual noticeable sedative
Hmm.
It actually functioned as a sedative.
Wow.
And it wasn't just, and this is the part that really surprised me. I
Hmm.
guess it makes sense to my brain that like a ballad or like a slow classical song would
Sure.
do something like that. But it even works with like up-tempo songs. So they were saying that the study found that even when you're listening to, like your favorite song, maybe it's your favorite hip hop song or something with a beat, even after, so the initial hearing of an up-tempo, it would increase people's heart rate, right?
Hmm.
But then after the song was over, their heart rate would slow down slower than their original at rest heart rate. That was literally still reducing their stress levels. I thought that was really, really interesting. And then the other thing that that article showed, now these are Harvard medical doctors, so like,
Oh.
listen, if you don't believe me, believe them, right? Um, they tested another study group of like 60 people or something like that, and just showed actual studies, actual like empirical like data that music can reduce pain,
Hmm.
physical pain, in people who experience chronic pain and depression. And I was like, well, talk about something we need right now, something that's going to help with depression, stress, you know, music.
Yeah, I mean
Doctors say you can use music.
that's such a beautiful thing, and
Yeah,
real life
yeah,
endorsement for folks. I feel like that it's not something that we naturally turn to unless you're a musician. You don't naturally turn to this as
yeah.
your language, your source of healing, but it really is for everyone. And actually, I'm thinking of the New York City Music Therapy Relief Project that was started in the aftermath of the September 11th attacks. And
Mm.
they had 25 community programs, a bunch of professional music therapists, and over 7,000 music therapy interventions in schools. This was in New York City schools that
Oh,
helped
wow.
students really understand and really express their emotions in a language other than the spoken language about how they were feeling about those attacks. So they've found a lot of success in times of crisis with music
Wow.
therapy, which is so, so exciting. And I stumbled on this wonderful resource, the Black Music Therapy Network. And I want to note too that when you go to the Black Music Therapy Network website, it says we are here for Black music therapists specifically, and they want you to be very intentional about how you share their resources and how you share these things and who you share them with. So as not to just kind of perpetuate some things that have been seen, but their culturally responsive practices collection is for everyone. And this is really taking an in-depth look at music therapy's response to the cultural moment. And it's an
Mm.
offering of different books, different music, different therapists all across the nation that are helpful in terms of how we can be really responsive to the things that are going on in our nation and how we can make a really in-depth impact. So we'll be dropping that link in the chat for sure.
I'm glad you're doing that. I'm also glad you brought up the difference. Therapy is different. It's not the same. It's not an intercommunity. We're not on the same level. It's been really stigmatized in the Black community. I remember I used to be a member. I used to attend the Abyssinian Baptist Church, and there were lots of great things about that church experience, and it was great. But one thing that always struck me is that every sermon that the head pastor, Dr. Reverend Butts, would deliver, he'd always mention and encourage people to get a checkup from the neck up. And I thought it was so weird that he
Mhm.
always thought to incorporate in his message to encourage everyone to see a psychologist or a shrink or a psychiatrist or whatever, just but to get some kind of professional help. Because there are so many, unfortunately, there are just so many people in the Black community that just really think you only go to a psychologist or a shrink if something's wrong with you.
Yeah.
They don't understand that it's a newer thing, especially among some of our elders, to understand that it's a self-care thing. It's like you go to the gym. It's like a thing you can do to maintain and to keep yourself in the right place. So I'm really glad that you put that out there and like highlighted that there is a special need for it. It's not just like, oh, why do Black people have to have their own?
Right.
It's not just because it's not people aren't being exclusionary. There's a greater need for this messaging to happen, I think, amongst our community in this particular
Mhm.
in regards to this particular topic, I think. And I'm really glad that you mentioned that specifically. Good on you, Sarah.
Oh, no, good on you. I'm excited that we're talking about this. And I think the
Yeah.
checkup from the neck up is going to be my new motto.
The checkup from the neck up. He said it every sermon. So you could have bought me for 10 cents. I was like, what did he say? The first time he said it, I literally leaned over and was like, what did he just say? Because I think I heard he said checkup from the neck up, but that's what he said. And he said it every Sunday.
Oh, wow.
And it, and I'm glad because the message sunk in for me. And I hope it sinks in for everyone within the sound of my voice. It's
Mhm.
just so important, especially in these times, Sarah. It's just so important. And then this paired with the isolationism of
Mm,
the pandemic. That's what makes it so much more difficult,
right.
and then you get into the whole thing about, like case in point today, I had a slight issue with my Wi-Fi, right? That luckily I'm in a position to fix. But could you imagine our lives if we didn't have access to Wi-Fi to even see people's faces in real time? I mean, that's a different kind of isolationism for anyone who doesn't have, internet connection. And there's a lot of people in our country who don't have regular internet connection. That's just another small thing I think we take for granted sometimes. People are really, if there were a time that we ever needed music,
Yes. It's
this is the time, this is the time. Oh, I have a question for you.
sure.
So you mentioned Fannie Lou Hamer earlier.
Mm,
Do you have a favorite Fannie Lou Hamer song or album? Because I do.
really? I know that she released an album of protest music. This was right around she was galvanizing folks to vote in Mississippi. But no, you know what? I don't know what that album is called,
Are
but
you talking about songs my mother taught me? Are you
yes,
talking about that
I am.
album?
I
Yes,
am.
get into it. Get into it. I own that album. I've listened to it so many times. It's so fun
Oh,
because she also, in addition to singing her renditions of songs, which is just so neat to hear, right? It's just so neat to hear it. She also just has these moments where she's speaking
mm,
and just
yes.
sharing her wisdom and
Yeah,
experience. And it's
yeah,
a great album. Everyone should listen to it because again, we need to listen to our elders.
we
And,
do.
another one that was good for it is Nina Simone's albums. Get her
Oh,
live. Don't mess around and get one of her live albums because she'll
yeah.
just tell you a few things. She's got some
She,
knowledge and then she shares it with you. It's a balm. It's a balm.
it's beautiful, and I'm just so grateful that we have such wonderful voices like Courtney's voice, like Coleridge Taylor Perkinson's voice to carry that tradition forward, to carry this
Yeah.
tradition of music and speaking from soul to soul.
Yeah.
Things. It's really wonderful.
And you said you're working on that piece, right?
5 years. I'll see you.
5 years.
I will see you in 2026.
Okay.
4/21,
Well,
2026. Mark the
it's
date.
gonna be 2026.
Yes.
2026. You heard it here. Well,
Got
I
me.
too, it'll be a race. I'm gonna win this race because I too am working on a piece that's really about this moment. One is called Carapace. It's actually a performance piece. It's for voice and like small chamber orchestra. And it's really about this moment. It's really about protecting your space.
Mhm.
Um, I think mine's gonna be ready before 2026 though.
Okay. I'll look
Yeah.
out for yours for first.
We'll go
I'll
to mine.
be
We're going to my concert first, and then we'll go
right.
to your concert.
Yeah, I'll be at your concert inviting you to my concert. Well,
That is so
Dana,
funny.
thank you so much. I'm so glad
Oh,
that we got to have this conversation today. This was just so rich and wonderful. And we're going to be able to drop all of these links, all of the music therapy and mental health links that we're talking about, the music, to just kind of get people through and help people with their own personal self-preservation. So I'm
yes.
glad that we got to have this discussion. And I hope that all
Oh,
of the folks that are joining us today will do us the honor of liking and subscribing and just kind of joining us every week.
yes. Y'all come back now. You hear?
Absolutely. All right. Thanks again, everyone from TDU, and have a